the way I always think about strategy is it's a lot more digging in and a lot more questions up front. We want to get the answers to the questions before we start converting that into action. Hey, I'm Spencer Powell and welcome back to Builder Funnel TV, where remodelers and custom builders tune in to grow their businesses. Quick reminder, if you're not part of Remodeler Growth Community, we'll drop the link below this video, or you can head on over to builderfunnel.com, click the community button, and we'd love to see you inside there. Today, I want to talk about the next evolution of the last video I did, which is if you're stuck around the $1 million mark or the $2 million mark, what to do. Today, we're going to talk about the next range that I see a lot of people get stuck in, and it's that $3 to $5 million in sales range. And at this stage of the game, you have some different components going on in terms of a marketing and sales system. So I want to mostly focus on that. But then you also have some operational challenges that I see that oftentimes are kind of capping people in this range. So let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll move back and dive into the marketing side. So when you're struggling to surpass maybe this like $3 to $5 million range, and you actually have the demand engine going, you've got enough marketing, you're closing deals, really what is holding people back is figuring out, how do I actually do more than $3 million worth of work in a 12-month period? And so that becomes an operations game where you're trying to figure out, hey, I'm either really inefficient, or I don't have enough team members, or my team members aren't being able to manage this many projects and move this many projects through to completion in this time period. And so if you solve those problems, then you'll be able to hit new revenue levels pretty quickly, because you've got the demand, you've got the marketing system, and you're selling the projects. You're just having to push people out, and you're building wait lists, and those are getting longer, and you haven't figured out, how do I actually compress these projects into a shorter time period? But let's say that's not your challenge, which I would say most of the time the challenge does fall on the marketing and sales side. At this stage of the game, you actually have some marketing in place, and that is producing a steady stream of revenue for you, in addition to any word of mouth and referral. But we need to take it to the next level to make sure that you're getting more bang for your buck out of the marketing. So there's a few things that we want to look at here. And the first one is really just shifting from I'm doing marketing stuff to let me have a strategy first, and then that's going to form my stuff or marketing activities. So I see a lot of companies that get stuck in this, go to a conference, hear a couple of speakers, get some cool ideas, and say, yep, I'm going to do that for marketing. And then you just kind of throw it in there. You don't commit to it fully, and you haven't really thought around, hey, how does this actually fit into my strategy? Does it actually make sense for us to do this type of marketing activity? So the big shift from tactics to strategy, and strategy first, and then laying out a plan, is the big shift. And so there's a few questions that you want to ask. And one is, have you truly audited your website's performance and how it's producing for you? Is it getting the right type of leads? Is it getting enough leads? And then you can dive into the weeds from there and look at a bunch of technical SEO components and lead conversion. But the other one is, how do you stack up against your competition? So how your website is doing and its performance is really important, but compared to your competition is the other side of that coin. And we need to know where they stand versus where you stand in order to make some progress there. So those are a couple of questions. Have you done a social media audit and an SEO audit to see where you can improve on those angles? Do you really know who your best customers are and where they come from? Because again, when you think about going from, say 4 million and breaking through that barrier and getting to 6 or 7 million, you really want to have a good grasp on who those ideal customers are and which channels are producing that. Because otherwise you're going to get flooded with tons and tons of unqualified prospects, and you're going to suck up a lot of time and resource just qualifying out and not focused on your ideal customers. The other thing is market research. So at this stage, you're probably getting to a point where you need to know what's going on in your market, how many people live in the area, how many people live in the zip codes that you want to attract your ideal customers from, and then what does the competition look like? Is the population growing? Is it shrinking? Is it pretty steady? All of those will influence kind of how you approach your marketing strategy. And then the other piece is one thing we talked about, which is where are your best customers coming from in terms of the channel, but then what does it cost to acquire a customer? So when you look at your marketing spend versus revenue produced, and where you get those customers coming from. So as you can see from this list of questions, we're starting to get more advanced with our marketing system and our marketing program. We're shifting from tactics to strategy. We're asking the right questions, and then that's going to produce better answers and better activities to focus on. So the way I always think about strategy is it's a lot more digging in and a lot more questions up front. We want to get the answers to the questions before we start converting that into action. At the beginning, you're just jumping into action. You're just doing some things that seem right. But at this stage, you should have some data. You should have some tracking mechanisms in place. You should have some information that you can make some decisions on. Obviously, then we want to dive a little deeper and get answers to those questions so we have a lot of good information, and then that will transform into, okay, now we're ready to execute for the next 12 months. We'll continue to track, we'll continue to measure, and that's how you can get these compounding returns over time. It's because you're actually taking that new information, improving it, and rolling into the next year. And so what you really want to do is take that information and then translate that into your improvements for the next year. So my call to action for this video for you is to really start seeking the answers to all those questions. I give you a list of questions at the start of the video. Start diving in and uncovering those, and then that will start to give you a clearer sense of what you should be focused on heading into the next year. So hopefully this helps you get unstuck if you're in that $3 to $5 million range. And with that, we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.